Hello everyone, this is Shanko and welcome to another video. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe, and when you subscribe, please click on the bell icon so that you never miss a video on my channel. And if you like this video, please click on the like button. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how we can create a very simple REST API using MuleSoft. And yeah, so let's get started and try to build our first MuleSoft REST API. So this IDE that you see is called Anypoint Studio, and this is used for building Mule applications. And yeah, you can download it from the internet if you want to use the free version of it. And let's create our first project, and I'll click on File, New, and I'll select a Mule project. I'll select this Mule project. I'm gonna name this demo, and this would be running inside an embedded server. So this is the runtime server that we are that would be running this application on. It's Mule server 3.9.0 EE. And let's click on finish. Sorry, next. And this is going to be the execution environment, JRE. This is Java 1.8, and click on next. Let's click on finish. Right, so we have our project here, and let's see the structure of the folders inside this project. So we have this src main app, and if we open this, we see this demo.xml. So the this src main app folder is gonna hold our web flows or our Mule flows, and yeah, this is basically gonna hold our Mule flows. And then we have src main Java, so whatever Java components we are using or whatever Java classes we are using, we have to place them inside this. And then src main resources, so this is going to be holding our holding the resources for our project. So whatever resources, whatever property files or whatever configuration files we are using, we would need to keep them inside this src main resources. And we also have test folders, so src test Java, src test munit. So yeah, basically like we have JUnit for Java classes, for testing Java classes, for unit testing Java classes, and similarly we have munit test cases for unit testing Mule flows. So all those would go inside this src test munit. Okay, so let's get started. I'll just delete this flow. And first things first, I would first build a RAML. Now, what is a RAML? RAML is you can say an API contract. So whatever API you are trying to build, RAML basically provides a contract for that API. What all things you can do with that API and what all things you cannot do with that API. And when you present the RAML to your client or to a stakeholder, it becomes really easy for that person to get an idea about what your API does and how it does. So let's just try to build one, create a RAML. So I'm going to say new and RAML API definition. So RAML basically stands for REST API modeling language. And I'm going to say book service, and click on finish. Okay, so as you can see, we are using RAML version 0.8. So different versions have different syntaxes and different things here and there which are not same, but most of the things are same. And first thing, I would just try to give name to the resource. I would say book. So book is going to be a resource, and whatever method we are going to provide inside book, we can provide post methods, we can provide get methods, we can provide different methods that are available for our HTTP, the HTTP verbs that are available. So we can provide any of those. So I would say get. And inside this, we can provide whatever query parameters we need to provide, or whatever URI parameters we need to provide. So I'll just keep it simple and place one query parameter inside this, and I would call it ID. So that's going to be the book ID. And here we can provide different things like type. So this is going to be of type integer. We can provide the min length, max length that this field can have, but I'm not going to go into all those stuff right now. I'm just going to keep it simple and not do all the fancy stuff that we can do with RAML. RAML is basically, it provides you a lot of power. You can do validation, you can do schema validation, JSON schema validations. You can place your validation files here, links to your validation files here. You can provide validation for your query parameters. You can provide validation for your URI parameters, and you can do a lot of stuff with RAML. So RAML is really a cool thing, and it's something, really impressive. And if you present this RAML to your client or to a stakeholder, it really becomes simple for her or him to understand what's going on with the API and what your API can do. So I'm just gonna keep it this much for the time being, and I'm gonna say I'm just gonna say responses. And inside this, I'm gonna say 200. So this is gonna be a success response, and the type is gonna be application JSON /JSON. Okay, so first I would need to say body. So this is the body that we're going to provide for our 200 response, and the body is going to be of type application JSON. So the media type of the body is going to be application JSON, and I'm going to provide an example. Here we can provide schemas as well, so I'm just going to provide an example here. And alright, so first I would create inside this src main API folder, I would create another folder and call it response. And inside this folder, I'm going to create a simple file and call it book service response .json. Right. I'm just going to provide an example. So as I was saying, RAML is really cool, and when we are presenting the RAML to a client or a stakeholder, it really becomes simple for that person to understand what's going on with our API. So we can provide examples of how our response is going to look like, and how what schema structure you're expecting the API to generate and stuff like that. So yeah, we can do all those stuff here. So I'm gonna just keep it simple and say book name, and I'm gonna say demo book, right? And I'm gonna say author, I'm gonna say demo author. I'm just gonna keep it this much, and here I would say book service response response dot json. All right, so now we are gonna create a flow using this RAML. So I'm gonna just right click on this and go to Mule, and I would say generate flows from REST API. Okay, so this is what we get. This looks like a pretty complex diagram. Let's just walk through this. So first, what we see is an HTTP connector. So this is going to be the entry point for our API or for our application. So if we just double click on this, it's going to open up this HTTP configuration. And if we see this base path, we have the path set as /API/star. And if we go inside the connector configuration, we can see the port is set to 8081, and host is basically localhost. This is basically localhost. So yeah, and we can set protocols for, like, HTTP is the default one, but we can set HTTPS as well, but that is something advanced, so I'm not going to go into that right now. So for the timing, we're going to use HTTP, and we can set timeouts and different stuff here. That's really easy to do. We don't need to have any coding for that. It's just basically, you know, a drag and drop things and just setting up all the configuration and stuff like that. So I'm just not going to do anything here. I'm just going to cancel this. And we see one more thing called API kit router. So this is going to act like a dispatcher servlet, or yeah, basically it's going to act like a dispatcher servlet. And whenever request hits this application, this API kit router is going to decide which. So I have inside the RAML, I have just provided one resource called book. We can have multiple resources inside this RAML. So if we have multiple resources inside this RAML, then this API kit router is going to decide which resource the request should be mapped to. And accordingly, it will take the request to that particular, you can say, controller, or you can say that particular flow if you're talking about Mule flows. So again, if we go down, this provides a console, book service console, so API kit console. So whenever we run this program, we can just have this API kit console thing here that shows up. And then we see another thing called get, then book, and this is basically the flow that is going to be invoked when we hit this particular application. So when we hit this application, it's going to come here to the HTTP connector, and then it's going to go to the API kit router, and the API kit router is going to decide where to which flow the request should be mapped. And since there is only one flow in our RAML defined as of now, so it will just map it to this one, and whatever we send as a response from this flow is going to be the response for that particular resource. So so for this diagram that we see here, for this really complex diagram that we see here, we have a matching XML file that gets generated, that gets auto-generated rather. And if we want to make changes, we can make changes here in the application, here in the XML file, and that will reflect here in the message flow in this diagram. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab this, and I'm just gonna remove this from here. I'll save it, and let's just go back to message flow. So we no more see that flow that we were seeing earlier, like /get/book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another flow. I'm going to say mule configuration file, and I'm going to name this fetch books, and here inside the configuration XML, I'm going to paste it. And if we go back to message flow, we say this here. So whatever changes we make here gets reflected inside the configuration XML, and the respective XML gets generated for that particular diagram. And if you make changes inside this XML file manually, then this would reflect here as well. So that is how it works. So this set payload is basically a component where we can set some response for our API. So here I'm just gonna hard code something. Instead of this, I'm just gonna hard code something and say book name is cracking the coding interview, and I'm gonna say author as Gail Blackman. I don't know if I'm spelling it correctly. I think there's gonna be 2N here. Yep. And McDowell, Towell. I think I messed up the spelling. And I'm gonna drag this down, and I'm gonna set the MIME type as application JSON. I'll click here, finish, and save this. All right. So now our application is ready, and it's gonna run on 8081. So I'm gonna right click, run as Mule application. That's it. We can have different launch files for our application, so we might be needing different environment variables to run applications, and there might be a lot of them. So we can just have launch files for running applications, and we can run launch files, and we can run applications using those launch files or using those configurations. So once the application is deployed, we can see this deployed, and this is the name of the project. This is the domain where it has been deployed, and this is the status. So it has been deployed. So let's just try to hit the URL. So I'll say HTTP localhost. It's running on 8081/API/book, and we need a query parameter. So I'd say ID equals to 100. Okay, so we can see the payload that we had set inside that set payload component, and let's try to give some invalid ID. So I'd say I just put some string here or some characters, and we get this bad request. So the validation is happening at RAML. Whenever RAML finds something invalid, it is just rejecting that request before passing it to the API kit router. And yeah, So this is a very simple example that I showed. Or yeah, just let's try to do one more thing. I just remove this ID. So do we have it as required true? Okay, so we haven't set the required field. Okay, we'd still get it, because if we don't set required, then by default it is false. So we can do really fancy things using RAML and using Mule, but this is a really simple example to get started with Mule applications and to basically get to know how Mule applications can be built. Yeah, and I guess that's it for this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.